Go back. Ready? Alright, start.
Can't see it.
Alright, so this one's about on the ancient Olympics.
Mute, please.
That's what was requested last week. To start off with the founding myths surrounding the Olympics. So these aren't actually how it founded, these are just myths. So the first one is there's two main diverging theories on how it was founded. First, the hero probably everybody's heard of, and second, I'll be surprised if any of you know of him. So first hero is this guy, and the note on a style of sculpture. It's a based off the spearman of Doryphorus, which was a marble spearman with this pillar which supports the structure. The Priam Portal of Augustus is a similar thing we live in Rome, and it's contrapposto, so you see the shoulders and the hips are going away from each other. That's generally seen as the best pose to have in a sculpture. So, any guesses as to who this might be?
Zeus.
How did you raise hands?
Hercules.
Yes, yeah. Whoever said Hercules is correct.
Yeah.
You can tell from his lion club and a lion pelt and his cloak. So obviously, yeah, this is Hercules or Heracles, as it is in the Greek. The name meaning glory of Hera, with Kleos being glory and Hera being hero. See, so Hera Kleos and glory of Hera. So it was after his fifth labour for King Eurystheus. I'm assuming most of you know what the labours, can't go into them because I don't have any time. And she had to clear out all the poop made in a stable which hadn't been cleaned and was really smelly. So he diverted a river through that. And then afterwards, in order to thank Zeus for doing it, he set a race in a clearing and planted an olive tree. That race is then said to become the Olympics. And the olive tree plants were said to become the prize you get after the game, after the games if you win, which I'll come to later. And the depictions of these labours are on the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, which I'll speak about more later. It's a depiction of a metope there. Yeah, so the second myth is about a guy called Pelops, who's has anybody ever heard of Pelops before?
Am I allowed to say yeah?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Cool. Perfect.
I haven't.
So the Peloponnese, which is basically Greece, was named after him. So fairly important. And yeah, his story begins with his father, Tantalus, king of Pisa. Not the same Pisa as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, different one. He invited the gods round for a big feast. He then killed Pelops and cut him up and feed him to the gods in a stew. All the gods, obviously being gods, they saw through this and didn't eat the stew. But apart from Demeter, who did eat part of his shoulder for reasons I can't go into now because it's down of time, but reasons I can explain maybe in a later Classics quarter. So they punished Tantalus by sending him to Tartarus, putting him in a river with a fruit tree over him. But every time he tried to drink the water would recede, and every time he tried to take fruit, the fruit would recede, so he could never eat or drink again. And then they revived Pelops and gave him an ivory shoulder in order to replace the one that was eaten. And so then Pelops wanted to marry, so he went to the mainland Greece, where another king, I can't remember his name, it's on the next slide, had a prophecy that his son-in-law would kill him. So the king, being a good charioteer, made a race and said anybody who could beat him in a race would get his hand for his daughter in marriage, Hippodamia. So Pelops goes to this race, and after the incident with his father, he was given a horses and chariots divinely done by the gods, but not being sure on whether he would still win the race. He asks one of the king Oinoma, I don't know how to pronounce that. That one there. He asked for the I don't know what it is, but it's like the stable keeper of the king to replace the axle with the wax axle, so that when the friction of the chariot would melt the wax, it would break and all. So that kind of happened, and at the climax of the race, the axle broke, the chariot crashed, the king died, and obviously Pelops winning the race, married Hippodamia, and then the guy who as the king's died, so the prophecy came true that the king died at his son-in-law's hand. And then the guy who sabotaged the king wanted recompense for his fixing of the match, but then Pelops didn't give him anything and chucked him off a cliff. But as he was falling, he cursed Pelops' family. This becomes important when you look at his children and their children, and it's another classic quarter if I ever get into it. And then Pelops established the funeral games for the king, and which became the Olympics at Olympia. Surrounding the pediments of the Temple of Zeus, same place as the Metapes. So location-wise, so it's basically near Mount Olympic, as Danny said, which is supposedly where the gods live, and there's a picture of it down there. There's no Mount Paralympic though; they're discriminatory. The city that the Olympics was based in isn't Olympia. There's Elis. That's the ancient city based there. Now it is called. There's a city called Olympia there, but in ancient Greece there wasn't. The Olympia was a sanctuary or holy space or whatever that the city was dedicated to Zeus mainly. So, for instance, a sanctuary is basically where temple altars are held. In Athens, it's the I can't remember what it's called now. It's on top of the mountain in Athens. So Olympia itself is a picture of it down here. Main three things really are the Pelpion, which is basically where Pelops is buried, the altar of Zeus, and the temple of Zeus. And the altar is where actual sacrifices and worship is mainly done by the lay people of the community. The temple itself is mainly just a treasury and place for a god to stay when he's on Earth. And that when he is on Earth, he'll take up the cult statue of the that they had in the temple. And the cult statue was a Chrysophantian statue, which means it was made of ivory and gold, which is obviously very expensive even nowadays. Back then it was even more. So it was designed by Phidias, who also made the statue of Athene in Athens in the Parthenon. And it's approximately 40 feet tall, which is about 12 meters. That's fairly high. And so the Metapes I mentioned in talking about Heracles are on the eastern, surrounding the temple. They're about 2 foot tall and would have been painted and were made of marble, which would obviously be expensive, considering the rest of the temple was made out of sandstone, which is very much cheaper. And so they really splurged on the Metapes, depicting the Heracles 12 labours. And the pediments, they are kind of what's above the entranceways, the east and the west. The one on the east I mentioned before was depicting the chariot race of Pelops, and the east is the entranceway because that's where the sun rose, and the west is the back end of it, which is Centauromarchy, or meaning Centaur War, where the Centaurs and the Lapiths fought, and I can talk more on that later in a later Classics quarter. So the actual game itself, I haven't learnt this bit in school, so it won't be as good. But generally, all wars were cancelled while the Olympics were taking place. No fighting was allowed to help the athletes fight, because a lot of the time the athletes would be the best warriors in the cities that they fought for. I can't remember, but this might have been an exception when the Persians invaded, because obviously the Persians aren't Greek, they're Barbaros, and so they probably didn't hold to the customs. I can't remember if that's true. But the Olympics were a chance to flex people's strengths, city-states' strengths of their warriors, effectively. And obviously for Elis, that'll be very prominent because it's their city, so having the Olympic Games there would be very prominent for them. And Athens completely ripped this off in their own Athenian Games, which was only for Athens and their allied city-states. So it was a way for the city-states to directly compete, which wasn't through war, and establish their dominance over other nations. And I had to censor some of these pictures because obviously you can't really show all the stuff. The actual events themselves, there's 3 categories, or actually there's more. I forgot about jumping as well. They had long jump and high jump and stuff. But it's races, fighting and throwing. So races could be
1
from
minute
chariot,
warning,
chariot races.
1 minute.
Chariot race, I have not much time. I don't know much left. Chariot races and sprints and armor, many lengths. Generally, the stadium they ran in was 200 meters long, so they did several laps of that. Sometimes 1 lap. And it was throwing events like javelin, discus. There was fighting. There was wrestling, which is only entered on concession of defeat. Boxing, which there was just a slug match, and then pankration, which I can again talk about more later if I get another classic quarter on it. But it's just less punching than boxing. And less throwing than wrestling, but kind of mix of the two. It's shown down there. Finally, the prizes. So obviously you gain respect and glory or chaos. If you won, but you'd also get the crown of olive leaves shown up here, which was symbolic of victory and olives being keep up Greek life for all things like food, cooking, cleaning, sex. And then they got a jug of olive oil, which would be worth a lot of money, and
Frenchie, one
Big.
second warning. One
the
second
M4 it
warning.
was the M4 it was in was also shown.
Huh. Danny?
Oh, come on, man. Ah,
He said
Could
no
have let
cake.
finish.
Oi.
Your time's up. Pretty good.
We've got questions.
Questions and recommendations for what you want me to do next week as well.
I've got a question. I've got a question.
What
Next.
Talk about
is
how many
wrong?
women Zeus has GT.
Yeah, right.
No. First of all, what is actually
Talk about how
with
Zeus
you,
is
Frenchie?
actually
Why did you keep
um,
censoring?
usually
people
perceived.
about-
Oh, is who's talking?
Yeah.
Being recorded.
I've got a question.
No, just one
What
question.
topics do you
What are the actual implications of this? Like all
Talk about
jokes
how
aside,
Zeus is actually like not a good guy.
right?
What? The implications are
No,
that
I
he
mean,
gets
no.
to relieve his classics.
No,
He
I
got
don't.
bullied for doing classics,
Guys.
and now he gets to relieve it.
French, I think you misunderstood me here. I'm asking you much. This isn't just about what's the point of this little activity we're doing here. Like now that you've learned about the mythology and all of
The Olympic Games, yeah.
What do you think the implications of this are? No, it's in like the different like mythologies behind that. How does this actually affect like how the Olympic Games, what the traditions of it and stuff like that now?
Oh, absolutely no impact at all. It's just like this
Oh,
stuff
right.
isn't in the A-level course. This is just stuff that's I learned some of it in GCSE, and it's relatively interesting to me. It has no impact at all on anything in modern day. I
Respect.
don't think.
But again, even with I'm saying, but even with like the actual, but even within like the actual traditions, like,
Danny,
you know
that's
how
the
like,
plan.
different, like torch stuff and things like it, does it affect that as in like I mean like the as a
What
way
do you
of
mean?
like I don't know like the,
What do
you
you
know,
mean in the
like,
ancient
ceremony.
classical times?
Vernon.
I mean, as in like now
Oh.
like the Olympic Games, is there any like
Nothing. I'm not going to hit anything.
throwback
I need
moment
ham.
to this event that you discussed?
Well, I think I can't remember. I didn't learn about it, but there might have been the Olympic torch like thing. That might have been a thing.
Do
back
one
in the
for
day.
me, Zero.
Hold on.
Oh,
Should we
it
do,
could also be
for
like-
what date?
Maybe.
We're preparing now, and I'll screenshot the
There we
results
go.
and put it in chat. Okay.
No,
Are you
no,
ready?
no. Do it on the day. Do it on the day. Do it on the day.
No, we're doing one
On
right
the
now.
day?
Do one.
Okay,
Do
well,
not, do not, do
every
not.
day
And we'll do an
until
average of the
next
two
Monday.
results.
See if he gets an extra. We'll give him a
Average.
bonus.
Danny's a terrorist. Danny's a terrorist.
Right. Sad.
Okay.
Sunday.
Spin. Wait, I should have put nothing as an option.
Yeah, nothing should be an option.
Hold on. We have to
Do it
reset.
again.
No,
Do
we
it
have to
again. Do it
redo
again.
it.
Do it
Doesn't
again.
count,
Do it
doesn't count, doesn't
again.
count,
Do it
doesn't
again.
count.
Put two nothings in there. Put two nothings in
Two.
there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think
Two-
three.
No,
No,
Why
no.
don't remove it?
No,
Put
two
one
nothing.
nothing
Two
for every
nothing. Two
day.
nothing.
Put one nothing for every day.
But in
Oh, God.
15 minutes, terrorist.
What? That's so.
There's a whole bag. No section of it.
It's not how it
Nothing,
works at
nothing,
all.
nothing.
How many do I need? One more.
That's a bit biased.
Yeah.
One more.
Too
Wait,
much.
so you need to interchange it because now there's going to be
We
need
nothing
to,
on
like,
one
space
side.
it out.
It's still the same chance. It doesn't matter. It's still the same chance.
Space it
Oh,
out.
so it's still the same chance.
No.
No, that's more than 50-50. It's not more than 50-50.
I swear.
Oh, what's it gonna
Wait,
be?
You got it.
That's next Tuesday, right? That's next Tuesday.
Guys,
Is it
Let's
next
go
Tuesday?
for
Tomorrow.
It's a sign from Zeus.
adultery.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah?
Tuesday week.
Tomorrow.
No,
What
Tuesday
do we
week.
want to do for
French, you're
tomorrow?
the time
Zeus is
constraint.
body count. Zeus is
Oh,
body
should we do
count.
a timer? Should we do a timer? Hold
No.
on. Get the timers ready for tomorrow. Might as well.
Tomorrow, can we get one on Zeus, please?
Zeus. What about
I think-
everything about Zeus? Or I can do
His
that.
body
Oh,
count.
yeah, as much as you can
His
cover.
body count. His
Actually, no,
body count.
Frenchie. Instead of
Body
just telling
count,
us
body
Because I
something,
can tell in the time.
Top
can you
five
tell us a
stories
moral
about
story?
Zeus.
Like a moral story from the.
A moral story.
There's like 10 people here for classics.
Actually, we're more interested in how many women Zeus has banged. Just keep.
Yeah,
keep
no,
on
it's
that
not-
line.
I do realise that.
That'll be
Half an hour,
One more
half an
now.
hour, half an hour, half an hour.
Spinning the timer wheel now.
Wait, it's not even serving me for 3 minutes. It's 30 minutes.
Oh,
It's
it's
30.
30
No!
yes,
That's
that's-
no, man.
Respin it.
That's on the line. I'll allow a respin. That was on the line.
You should do double or nothing, to be honest. Never mind.
Reload it.
Oh no.
It's on the line. It's on the
So
line.
it's nothing on Tuesday.
I feel bad, man.
There's no way, man.
Nah,
Okay.
so-
10 minutes on Tuesday about Zeus.
It's a sweet
10
spot.
minutes, 10 minutes.
What
Like,
option
10 minutes
Okay,
about
10
Zeus,
minutes.
please, Frenchie.
That's enough time.